It's Joyful Christian Hermit. And I've had an answer to prayer tonight. Unity prayer. Praying for unity among family members, unity among those who disagree or worry about things, unity about political news or any kind of news. Unity, unity, unity. Got this phone call from my grandson apologizing to Gaga. And I couldn't answer the first two calls. He called right after the other. I was having such a bad coughing fit. But I finally was able to answer and hear him apologize and express to me just how worried he gets. He listens to the news. He says he's going to stop. It was upsetting him. And I said, yes, they're in the market to get people to view. And I said, I think they prey a lot upon younger people, with what news station could have the more fantastic or frightening kind of news for people to listen to and get hooked into it, thinking that, that we're doomed and that this person's evil or all these other. And he said, yes, he's going to stop paying that much attention. I said, why don't you and I, to my grandson, we'll each pray. Every day we'll pray. Pray that this new president does do very well and is a good person. And also that we wait and just look back. Maybe each week. See, are things okay? Are we safe? Are good things happening out there in the world? And to look at other than just one news station, look at several. Or wait and at the end of a month. So we're going to get together later this week, if I feel better, and talk. I said, I want to hear about your life, your career that you plan, your last 2 years of college. He took a year off, and because he graduated early from high school, or actually at the same time, but at the same time he was taking college courses. So he's going to be a junior in college. And so, and he has time, he's 17. He can take a little time off. He's working at a little store and see what he's planning to do with his life, and just sort of exciting to hear what he can do to lift up himself and those around him. He said, let's get excited, because we can't control what the media says, if they're telling the truth or not, or what a leader does. But we can do good in our little area here. And through whatever career he's going to have eventually, he can do good. He doesn't have to be. He was upset about this young man who shot the insurance executive. And I said, well, the media may end up sort of using that young man in a way to get more people to watch the news, make it more sensational or conflicting or something. So that's about all we can do is pray and keep trying to have unity and to do good ourselves for God and for others. So that really was a surprise, fast answer to prayer. And I appreciate any of you who prayed, because he said, he wants to be close and stay close, and said he was ashamed that he got upset and wasn't blaming me. He just is, I think, like a lot of young people. And I forget which election period it was, but an elderly woman, and she was 87 or 89 years old, and would call her daughter every night at 1 or 2 in the morning. She would be up late listening to talk shows and would be convinced that somebody was an evil devil, and would call her daughter across the country and go on, convinced that this politician was evil. I forget which politician it was. It was some vice president. And she spent the last 2 years of her life really fixated on garbage, on that. The man may not be all that great of a person. I don't know. But he wasn't the devil incarnate or anything. And no good in thinking about it and being so upset. But it was some late night talk show host who was fueling that elderly woman's flames. So I thought instead, I was just very, very uplifted and thanking God for answering the prayers, for unity in the family. And my grandson brought up all this. He says, this is a time for unity. The country's divided. We need unity. And I said, yes, and it can sometimes split families totally apart for long periods of time. And he, of course, he did not want that at all. And so what a beautiful answer to prayer and unity. Prayer, because he's a Christian, I'm a Christian, prayer of Christian unity. And I read again this by St. Augustine from his Confessions, the book called Confessions. And just the tremendous love St. Augustine had when he had his conversion. Late have I loved you, beauty so old and so new. Open this up a little bit. Late have I loved you, and see, you were within, and I was in the external world, and sought you there. And in my unlovely state, I plunged into those lovely created things which you made. You were with me, and I was not with you. The lovely things kept me far from you, though if they did not have their existence in you, they had no existence at all. This is St. Augustine talking to God. You called and cried out loud and shattered my deafness. You were radiant and resplendent. You put to flight my blindness. You were fragrant, and I drew in my breath, and now pant after you. I tasted you, and I feel but hunger and thirst for you. You touched me, and I am set on fire to attain the peace which is yours. When I shall have adhered to you with the whole of myself, I shall never have pain and toil, and my entire life will be full of you, Lord. You lift up the person whom you fill, but for the present, because I am not full of you, I am a burden to myself. Have mercy on me, Lord. There is a struggle between my regrets at my evil past and my memories of good joys and wounds. Of good joys, and which side has the victory, I do not know. Alas, Lord, have mercy upon me, wretch that I am. See, I do not hide my wounds. You are the physician, I am the patient. You are pitiful, I am the object of pity. So that was true love and feeling of St. Augustine, writing down in his Confessions how he felt about the Lord and his gratitude. Gratitude to God for not giving up on him, and for the closeness that they then had later on. Let me find another spot here. Well, I think I'll stop at that. I just find so many beautiful things. Well, here's the scripture that goes with that, of how Jesus went out along the sea. All the crowd came to him, and he taught them. As he passed by, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the customs post. He said to him, "Follow me," and he got up and followed him. Followed Christ. While he was at table in his house, many tax collectors and sinners sat with Jesus and his disciples. They were there. And there were many who followed Jesus. Some scribes who were Pharisees saw that he was eating with sinners and tax collectors and said to his disciples, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Jesus heard this and said to them, "Those who are well do not need a physician, but the sick do. I did not call the righteous, but sinners." And I was remembering David, and you know what a sinner he was when he was king, all that he did. But he had remorse, and he was forgiven. And he came to be one of the greatest leaders. So we wait and see. And we also keep praying for others. I had something else happen. And this is a plea for unity that I've had before, of love and consideration, unity among fellow hermits. So I had noticed that there's been sort of just silliness. I used to get upset by it and concerned and, wanting unity to be on my fast, to happen soon. And it's gone on 17 and a half years now. But I've had a total change of perspective. This is what all the praying I've done for the situation has done for me. I have seen it from a different light. And it's silly. Now I realize how silly, but I'm flattered. I realize I am honored in a way that this other person is so infatuated with what I write or say. Now say used to be what I would write. And there's somebody who watches my videos. This is the silliness of it. Tricky women, it's sort of girls, how girls act. Naughty girls, or girls that don't have enough to do, to keep focused, to do good with their lives, or to come up with their own. But the one watches my videos, watch the video where I had the quote of this priest that I disagreed with, and talked about that. But I said, we all do things like that. We write things or say things, and it can be, I said 6 hours later or 3 hours later, someone points out something, and we can totally change our mind and realize what we wrote isn't really what we think. So that priest now might not write that quote at all. He might not think in those terms. But because I had said something and a viewer had pointed out something else, and I totally changed my thoughts on it just within hours. That's how we grow. We have a right to change our opinions or reconsider what we've written or said. That's good. That's growth, or that's simply seeing a bigger perspective. Like I've seen a greater perspective of this other hermit who now I realize is just infatuated with me. I used to think stalking me or all these things. And it's not a positive infatuation, particularly at all. But it seems like my light keeps going down on this. Um, but nonetheless, I see it now as a positive and or as a humorous. Like this person who writes and says that she watches my videos and noticed that quote and that I disagreed with it, and then went to this other lady, though, and tattled. It's like tattled. Now, this is what she said. Now, what do you think? No, just playing a game, really, one against the other. Girls can do that. When I taught my first year of teaching at a rather rough high school in Southern California, the girl fights were the worst. I would, hear these boys calling, girl fight, girl fight. And the teachers would have to come out during class passing time or lunchtime. We'd have to go out and try to break up the fight. And I was just 23 years old then? And came from the Midwest, we didn't have things like that in the high school of my hometown. So, custodians would come running, administrators would come, because the girl fights were known as the most vicious. And the boys loved to watch the girl fights. They'd huddle around, but it took a lot just for us teachers to get in there to pull them apart or call the police sometimes. We had a resource officer who'd have to come too. And, they'd get vicious. And they would egg each other on in classes before they would meet for the fight, or it would erupt suddenly, and it just reminds me of that in a way, these girls. So the viewer of mine could have left a comment to me. Could you explain this more? Could you give the context in which it was written? Do you think he really meant it? I could have written out the context. Well, that's what the viewer who watches mine, if this is even a real person, this other lady may just be making it all up to make better reading for her site. Like this big thing. And then someone else comes to the queen to give the edict. Is this right or is this wrong? What do you think about what this one writes or said about this quote? What do you think? Is that right? Rather than just asking me, I would have written it all, written out given the context. And so this other hermit wrote out all the context. Of course, disagreed, and, thought it was wrong when I did. And this other person also didn't mention that I had given grace to the priest, how we all can change our minds or write things and then later on think, well, no, I don't really believe that, or in context. I still thought it was how he was, but I could have written the site that it came from and all the paragraphs around it, explained to this person, but she wanted to rile something up, see. If it's a real person who watches, because she wrote, I watch all this other hermit's videos and saw this, and now what do you think? So just playing a game, playing sides, and trying to stir up trouble, trying to stir up disunity, or just to give this other person a chance to bloviate some, to feel superior and be like the voice of reason or the queen who gives the answer, off with her head, or no, give her a pound of gold. It's just, it's now it has struck me as funny humorous, and I'm flattered because then there was another, if I talk about some topic, this person does. So obviously admires me underneath because it uses whatever I write. It's like I'm the leader and this other's the follower. And so, but tries to make it seem bigger and better, that this person had something bigger and better than what I did. So it's competition. Very competitive, I think. There's envy involved. Girls get envious. And but I saw it all from such a different perspective. And I hadn't looked at this person's site it's been 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And all of this was there, and it's just sort of amusing. But it shows me how women can be. Girls, little girls are like that. I remember at one of my third grade birthday party, some girls started saying bad things about other little girls at the party. Just got things stirred up. Then before long, the little girl was crying, and it just for what they were saying, and I was trying to help, and finally had tell my mom what was going on, and my mom was trying to let us just sort of have our playtime together, but my older sister was there to help supervise, so we had to get that straightened out because feelings were getting hurt in that sense. But girls can be tricky, and women, old women too. Oh my, it doesn't stop when the girls grow up. If you're in that mode of being a tricky little girl and like to do that kind of thing, go behind other people's backs and stir trouble, just trouble stirring. Like to be in controversy or get controversy going. And it's amazing, my prayers have been answered, not in the way that I wanted. I wanted this other hermit and myself to be colleagues and to get along and to agree more on things or to reciprocate in a mature, professional way as each of us are hermits in the church. But no, that's not going to happen. But what I did gain from it was a sense of humor about it, and seeing what was going on, and seeing how if there is indeed this third person, this third woman who's reading listening to my videos and then reporting to her or trying to see what she thinks about it. Is this right or is this wrong? Or it's like there's always something about every video. It's gone on so long that even in the reprise videos, this person posts, not videos, blogs. She does blogs. In her blogs that are reprise, meaning, old ones that she just reposts, that they are repeating things that she was against me for, and calling me out on in a very superior way. And when I've been a hermit longer, but it didn't matter. That's the pride that can happen, I think, with diocese hermits, that they do get this feeling that they are more superior, because they are approved by a bishop. Perhaps, I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, but it's usually very anti what I write. But even now, the ones that she takes from the past, this has been going on 17 and a half years, so even those are ones that were in controversy with what I at the time would write. blog. I used to blog, but I changed over to vlogging videos. So anyway, it was interesting, and I realized that unity doesn't always happen in the way we think it might, or not soon. This has been 17 and a half years, and there may never be unity. I realize maybe not, because we view things very differently. So in that regard, but I would think there could be a unity of a professionalism, though, of a maturity. And this person who's trying to stir trouble is, that's something all of its own to consider, for that person to consider. What does that look like? We're talking, I think the hermit's 76 or 77 years old, the other hermit. I'm 73. Who knows how old this rabble rouser is, But, and even if it's somebody, I'm glad that people can all listen to and watch my videos. They all, if they get too contentious in their comments, I put a block on it, but they can still watch. They're not cut out from watching and listening. They just don't have the privilege of leaving comments if they get nasty, because I'm going to keep it as positive as possible. And even in my disagreeing with some of the things of the reverend who made the comment, I did say that he that may have been when he was very young, too, and hadn't been a hermit himself that long, or had time to reflect more. Because I wasn't convinced with the, in the context, that it was that much different. But there's another example of, how unity can take on a different perspective. And I think of the quote in the book, Imitation of Christ, to bear with others as I have been borne. To bear others' faults because other people have borne with my faults. That's one of the statements that's made in the Imitation of Christ. It's a lovely devotional book. Well, I consider it devotional, very wise, and how we can imitate Christ in all different aspects, but that's one way. Christ bore. Other people were hard on Christ, terribly hard, vicious. But he bore